Why can't we hate men? And this is in the opinion section of the Washington Post, and it's been penned by Susanna Danuta Walters. Thank you, Susanna. And she's a professor of sociology and director of the Women's Gender and Sexuality Studies program at Northeastern University. God help us. And she's also the editor of the gender studies journal Signs. And she starts off, it's not that I'm not going to do this whole article, it's too boring, but I'll just do the bits that count. It's not that Eric Schneiderman, the now former New York Attorney General, accused of abuse by multiple women, pushed me over the edge. Has he been found guilty of anything yet? My edge has been crossed for a long time. Before President Trump, has he been found guilty of anything? Before Harvey Weinstein? All right, she may have something there. Before mansplaining, an invention of feminism. And incels, I'm still not sure I know what incels are. Before live streaming sexual assaults and red pill men's groups and rape camps as a tool of war and the deadening banality of male prerogative. Well, if she's talking about wars around the world where women are routinely raped, so are men, so are girls, and so are boys. It's it's just bad for everyone. Seen in this indisputably true context, it seems logical to hate men. Really? I can't lie, I've always had a soft spot for the radical feminist smackdown. Alright, she says smackdown, I'm going to drop down a little bit because she prattles on a bit here. And she talks further down about growing movements to challenge a masculinity built on domination and violence, and to engage boys and men in feminism are both gratifying and necessary. Please continue. Well, no, I'm not going to continue just yet. Thank you, Susanna. Boys are being feminized all over the Western world. It's absolutely deliberate. And in China, they're deliberately bringing up their boys masculine, to be proper, really masculine, because they can see what's happening to the soy boys of the Western world. And I was going to do a video, I don't know, it was about a week ago, maybe, about a school here in Britain, yet another one, which has told boys, and it's sweltering, of course, at the moment in Britain, and they've told boys that they aren't allowed to wear shorts. They can either wear long trousers, which of course they're going to roast in, or alternatively, they have to wear skirts. I might still do a video on that. Anyway, but this recognition of the complexity of male domination, however different it can be in different parts of the world, how racism shapes it, there you go, must not mean we forget some universal facts. Before I continue, I point out that if the Washington Post gave me the same kind of coverage, if they allowed me to pen an article the same length as this thing, I could put forward a much better case as to why men shouldn't hate women. Because let's face it, most women these days seem to hate men, and that's because they've been brainwashed by the media. Anyway, she continues, pretty much everywhere in the world this is true. Women experience sexual violence. So do men, so do girls, and so do boys. And the threat of, she didn't say that, that's what I'm saying. And the threat of that violence permeates our choices, big and small. No, I don't think so. In addition, male violence is not restricted to intimate partner attacks or sexual assault, but plagues us in the form of terrorism and mass gun violence. Most gun violence, if she's talking about the United States, is man on man. And the overwhelming majority of school shootings, yes, they're committed by boys and young men, and almost all of them come from single mother families. And as far as terrorism is concerned, it's still relatively rare in the West. Anyway, here she goes with the obvious now. Women are underrepresented in higher wage jobs. I don't care how many times, I don't care what a man does for a living or what a woman does for a living, but a man in a higher paid job, let's say, I'll take Richard Branson. I mean, he's pretty well known all over the world. I assume he's a billionaire. And how does he represent me? If I get on one of his planes, a Virgin plane, do I get a discount for being a man? He doesn't represent me any more than a woman doing a high-ranking job represents other women. This is just bullshit. Local and federal government, no. Business, well, again, it's a question of who gives a shit? Why is she so obsessed with this? Educational leadership, etc. Well, leadership, I should look into that. But the education systems right throughout the Western world are totally feminized, and they are mostly run by women. It's unbelievable. Wage inequality, oh God. I haven't even finished this article there yet myself, so I'm reading this right now in real time. Wage inequality continues to permeate every economy and almost every industry. Well, in the Western world, what do I really have to say this? Wage inequality has nothing to do with discrimination. Women continue to provide far higher rates of unpaid labour in the home. Unpaid labour. Is someone supposed to pay a woman if she's in the house and home? She, I don't know, hoovers the carpet, cleans the toilet, and what, someone's supposed to pay her? And I think it was I just covered it very recently. It was the Federal Reserve that declared that most of the wealth in the United States is controlled by women. And that's because most of the spending of the household income is spent by women. And I believe 40% of women, this is according to Department of Labour statistics, 40% of women now earn more than their husbands. So it more than balances itself out. Women have the whip hand, it seems, when it comes to spending both their money and the man's money as well. And talking about this unpaid labour, I live alone in my own house. When I do the hoovering or the washing up or clean the toilet, I'm supposed to get paid for it? Just absolute nonsense. Prattles on. Women have less access to education. Now, you see, if she's talking about all over the world, then there is some truth to that. But mountains are being moved to get girls into education at, in some cases, the expense of boys. But as far as the United States is concerned, there are more women in universities than men. Does she complain about that? Of course not. Women have lower rates of property ownership. Around the world, perfectly true. In the United States, I believe, unless I'm much mistaken, I think this came from something that Tucker Carlson did. And he stated that women in the United States, single women, I beg your pardon, in the United States, are twice as likely to own their own homes as single men. And when you consider the number of men who are thrown out of their houses because of divorce, I would imagine that women have more houses and homes in the United States than men do. The list goes on, she says. It varies by country. Okay, so she is talking about the whole world, but that's very convenient for her. Why doesn't she concentrate on her own damn country? But these global realities of women's economic, political, social and sexual vulnerabilities are well real. Indeed, the nations in which these inequalities have been radically minimised are those in which deliberate effort has been made to both own up to gender disparities and to address them directly and concretely. I should have read this damn thing first, because some of it's boring. This bit isn't. So in this moment, here in the land, I assume she's talking about the United States, of legislatively legitimated toxic masculinity. What a load of fucking rubbish. What is she talking about? If anyone can enlighten me on that, please do. And she asked the question, is it really so illogical to hate men? So she's pretty much putting forward the idea that it's logical to hate men. So women should hate their fathers, uncles, brothers, sons. Is this what she's saying? For all the power of the hashtag MeToo and hashtag Time's Up and the women's marches, feminist marches, only a relatively few men have been called to task. And I've yet to see a mass wave of prosecutions or even serious recognition of wrongdoing. Well, I don't know what the hell she's talking. Oh, well, okay, she's talking about sexual assault here then, I assume. And most of this Me Too thing, it's more like me too. Every bloody woman, particularly C-grade actresses that are currently out of work, wanting to jump on the fucking bandwagon, get themselves some publicity. On the contrary, she says, cries of witch hunt, correct, and the plotted resurrection of celebrity offenders came quick on the heels of the outcry over endemic sexual harassment, my fucking ass, and violence, she says. But we're not supposed to hate them because hashtag not all men. Yet hardly any in terms of percentage, and women are just as bad as far as I'm concerned. I love Michelle Obama as much as the next woman. Well, I'm quite sure there are loads of women who don't love Michelle Obama. But when they have gone low for all human history, maybe it's time, she's talking about men, maybe it's time for us to go all Thelma and Louise on their collective butts. It just sounds to me like she's peddling hate. The world is little place for feminist anger. Yeah, and fuck feminism. Of course, it's not just feminists that hate men, it's women as a whole now these days, the modern women, younger women, and I think it's men who have the right now to be angry at women. Women are just brainwashed, they're completely gone. Anyway, women are supposed to support, not condemn. Then why are they forever fucking condemning men? Because this is how they're being taught. Offer succor, not dismissal. Well, they're the ones being dismissed by men en fucking masse. It's called MGTOW. We're supposed to feel more empathy for your fear of being called a harasser. Yeah, that's a very real fear, than we are for the women harassed. Now, I'd say it's balancing out. I mean, people who are generally harassed, I sympathise with them, and people who are in fear of being accused of harassment or who are falsely accused. See, feminists don't give a shit about men who are falsely accused, which is the last video I did. We are told he is with us and hashtag not him. But truly, if he were with us, wouldn't this all have ended a long time ago? You're never going to stop sexual harassment. If he really were with us, wouldn't he reckon that one good way to change structural violence, I don't even know what the fuck that means, and inequity would be to refuse the power that comes with it. Well, you mean just step down from their jobs? Well, sometimes from male power, if that's what she indeed means. Well, there are guys in Westminster, MPs, who I've heard condemning their own gender. And one guy, I can't remember his name, he said that there are too many white middle-class men in the House of Commons. And he was a white middle-class man. Now, if I ran the country, I'd just throw him out on his fucking ear. And I'd say, you said there are too many of you, fuck off. But of course, he doesn't want to, he was pissing all over the men below him, white middle-class men, whilst maintaining his own position. It's typical of what I would call the patriarchy. Anyway, so men, if you really are with us and would like us to not hate you for all the millennia of woe, I haven't been around for thousands of fucking years, you horrible woman, that you have produced. No, I haven't produced this and benefited from. No, women are the beneficiaries of male largesse these days. The more you give them, the more they... I'm going to end it at this. I've had enough of this article. Not even finishing it. No, women have been complaining. They're like nagging fucking wives, even if you're not even married to them. And women, their hypergamy is such now that they will never... Feminists, women led by feminists, most of them claim that they aren't feminists, women that is, but the vast majority of them secretly are. And they will never, ever, ever stop their complaining and their demanding until men just starve them of children, starve them of love, starve them of fucking everything. Let them go their own way as well. Fuck them. Or rather not. Thank you.